Shut up and sit down.
Hello lovely people and welcome back to another video. My name is Seirra and today we will be completing a quick crash course in attachment theory and attachment styles. So we will be looking at what exactly the different attachment styles are and why they are important to us. So first of all, what exactly is attachment? Attachment is the deep and enduring emotional bonds that exist between two people. Now, individuals typically feel more safe and secure when their attachment figures are present. And when something goes wrong, individuals also typically seek out their attachment figures for support or comfort. Unlike the common myth, which entails that our attachment figures can only be our parents, while this may be true for babies or infants who have yet to meet anybody else, for us adults, our attachment figures are not limited by blood or physical distance. While of course they can be our parents, they can also be people like our romantic partners or even our best friends. So coming back to attachment styles then, they are the patterns that we exhibit when bonding with a significant other in our lives. Although of course we want our relationships with significant others to be safe, secure, and equal, unfortunately, this is not always the case. So you may be wondering, why exactly is this attachment thing so important? Can't we simply live without it? Harry Harlow conducted a research study, which is now considered a classic in behavioral science. During the 1950s and 60s, researchers, primarily in the US, believed that babies were so heavily attached to their parents, more specifically their mothers, because they were able to provide food. However, Harlow's research proves this otherwise. In this study, Harlow took infant monkeys away from their biological mothers and placed them in cages with surrogate mothers, one which was made of wood and wire, and another which was made of rubber foam and soft cloth. These baby monkeys were randomly assigned to one of two conditions. One where the cloth mother had milk and the wire mother had nothing, and two where the wire mother had milk but the cloth mother had nothing. According to scientists' beliefs at this time, the baby monkeys should be more attached to the surrogate mother, which had milk. However, Harlow found that regardless of their conditions, the baby monkeys actually spent more time with the cloth mother than the wire mother. Even when only the wire mother had food, the baby monkeys would go to the wire mother to get milk and then immediately return to the cloth mother. Moreover, when these baby monkeys were placed in new situations to explore, they would run back and cling to the cloth mother when scared, and then venture out to explore again. This study suggests not only is attachment highly important, it's also rooted in our biology. It's part of who we are as humans. So as you've grown up, you've probably realized that people hold different habits and preferences when bonding with others. Some individuals are more distanced and private, while others are more outgoing and enthusiastic. Some individuals have a hard time trusting others, while others are more chill about it. So what exactly makes us different, and what exactly sets us apart? Mary Ainsworth conducted a similar study to Harlow's, which pretty much laid the foundation for the development of the various different attachment style theories. During her study, researchers observed children aged 12 to 18 months as they responded to a new situation in which they were left alone briefly and then reunited with their mothers. Although this is a very simplified version of their methodology, the study actually included many more steps. If you are interested, we have included a link in the description of this video, which will take you to another video which explains the Ainsworth study in more depth. After analyzing the recorded behaviors, Ainsworth was able to identify 3 different attachment styles that were present in children. 1, secure, 2, anxious ambivalent, and 3, avoidant. However, today we are more familiar with 4 different styles instead of 3. The 4th attachment style, otherwise known as disorganized or fearful avoidant, was later identified and introduced in the 1990s by 2 of Ainsworth's students, Main and Solomon. The secure child used their parents as a safe base for exploration. For example, they would wander off to play, return to their parents to cuddle or to check on them, and then continue to wander off. These children, of course, would show appropriate distress when their caregivers left. However, they would also show positive emotions when their caregivers returned and comforted them. As adults, these people tend to have a more positive and stable self-image, and they also view others more positively and less harmful, allowing them to more easily trust and bond with others. Now, this is not to say that a secure child will become a secure adult. Attachment styles can be both learned and unlearned. If you do not like your current attachment style, it is possible to change it. However, it will require some extra effort and work. The anxious ambivalent child was wary of strangers. They protested upon their parents leaving through yelling or crying and demonstrated great distress. They also felt resentment and were slow to warm up when their caregivers returned. Parents often describe these children as clingy or needy and difficult to comfort. As adults, typically these individuals have lower self-esteem and are more likely to think others are more reliable than themselves. As a result, they're more likely to continue with these clingy behaviors. Next, the dismissive avoidant children showed little to no emotion during play, even when their caregivers left and then returned. They did not seek much contact, acting as if they were not interested when offered support or affection. They also treated strangers similarly to caregivers, not necessarily caring for either of them. As adults, dismissive avoidant individuals feel pretty good about themselves. They know what they want to do and how they will do it. However, they demonstrate some difficulties relating to people as they do not have the same positive impression of others. They are more likely to distrust or simply disregard others. Lastly, disorganized or fearful avoidant children were distressed when their caregivers left. However, also they remained distressed when they returned, no matter how long or how hard their parents attempted to comfort them. They also seemed disorganized as they demonstrated mixed emotions, such as approaching their caregivers but with their backs turned or acting apprehensive. As adults, these people seem very confused. They have low self-esteem as they do not trust themselves, as well as have negative feelings regarding others. They are more likely to say, "I don't know how to feel," as they desire intimacy, but also fear rejection at the same time.
Despite the initial research that focused on child development, John Bowlby's attachment theory can be defined as the nature of the emotional bonds within a close two-person relationship. And as Seirra mentioned earlier, that could be between friends, family, or romantic partners. The resulting attachment styles are based off individual measures of anxiety, so that would be relating to views of the self as worthy, and then avoidance, which is relating to views of others as being trustworthy and dependable. Securely attached individuals are low in both categories, and this is actually the most favorable outcome because securely attached individuals are the most likely to develop healthy relationships because they can typically find a balance between independence and dependence with others. On the other hand, insecurely attached individuals are often high on one measure and low on the other, or they're high on both measures. So individuals who are high in anxiety and low in avoidance are labeled as anxiously attached. These individuals with this attachment style are often clingy, as they use intimate relationships as a measurement of their own self-worth. In comparison, individuals who are low in anxiety and high in avoidance are labeled as having avoidant dismissive attachment. These individuals have a tendency to downplay the importance of intimate relationships whilst putting great value on their independence. And then finally, individuals that are high in both anxiety and avoidance are labeled as having a fearful attachment style, which is often characterized as someone with low self-esteem who desires but also avoids close relationships with others. So to illustrate what this looks like, I'd like to share a case study that I actually created for a previous SMF class. And I'll just let you know that the purpose of the study was for my peers to identify the various intersections of the characters' identities, and then to determine how those aspects were contributing to the conflict that I created. So among these identities, I included their attachment style, because attachment styles greatly influence the ways that we interact with the people around us, and they're ever changing depending on the relationships that we're analyzing. So let's see if you can identify these characters' attachment styles. Stella, a cisgender heterosexual female, and Forrest, a cisgender heterosexual male, have been in a monogamous relationship for 9 months. Although he's an atheist, Forrest agreed to attend church with Stella when they decided to pursue a romantic relationship with one another. On the Sunday before Thanksgiving weekend, the couple met at their favorite bakery an hour before the service. As they sipped on their coffees, Stella excitedly mentions her Thanksgiving plans. One of her friend's parents has offered use of their family cottage, and a group of Stella's girlfriends were planning a Friendsgiving getaway. She was relieved to have a legitimate reason to not see her parents. In a mild state of shock, Forrest expresses his disappointment that they would not be visiting each other's families, at the very least his. He understood Stella's relationship with her parents was always distanced, but expressed that given the steadiness of their relationship, he thought the holiday would be a good time for him to introduce her to his parents. Stella knew that Forrest had been wanting her to meet his parents for some time, but he hadn't said anything until that morning. When she asked him why he hadn't said anything sooner, he explained that he assumed she would have wanted to spend Thanksgiving with him. When she tried to reassure him her desire to spend Thanksgiving with her friends was not because she didn't want to spend it with him, he continued to express his confusion. Since it was clear to her, their conversation reached a standstill. Stella informed Forrest that she did not want to be late for church and that she would be going. Forrest insisted on joining her, hoping that with a little bit of time, Stella would agree to spend Thanksgiving with him. Alrighty. So originally when I created the case study, there were more details about the characters, but for the purpose and scope of this video, I decided to cut certain things out. And based on what we know about these characters, it would seem like Stella has the avoidant dismissive attachment style, whereas Forrest has the anxious preoccupied attachment style. After childhood of experiencing absentee parenting, Stella seems much more afraid to be enacting those bold statements of commitment to her relationship, and as a result of her avoidance, she ends up cutting the conversation short as opposed to continuing to try to work through things and then reach some sort of conclusion. And on the other hand, Forrest's insistence to continue to be with her despite this unresolved conflict could be seen as a sign of his anxious attachment style. Although it's reasonable that he would desire his partner's presence for the holiday, his lack of understanding and feelings of anxiety could be supported by his anxious avoidance. So instead of putting weight behind Stella's decision to spend time with her friends, he focused on the fact that she wouldn't be with him. Something to think about is that although Stella seems to have anxious attachment when it comes to romantic relationships, there are clearly exceptions, such as her friends that were mentioned. And as I previously stated, an individual's attachment style is not necessarily fixed, and it also has the capacity to change. So if you're finding that you identify with one of the less secure styles, don't worry. You have the capacity to grow, as is your attachment style. And that's a wrap. Okay, you lovely people. Thank you so much for stopping by today. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down below. We'll get to them as soon as we can. In the meantime, leave us a like and don't forget to subscribe and check out our other videos. Bye!